That's a really great graphic. It would be awesome if someone got that off screen. Hey!
That's not us. The big twist.
It's live.
It's
It's live
live.
TV.
It's live, and it's been a few weeks since we've last done this.
So glad to be back. So happy to be back with all the surprises that the stream can bring to our morning. Really quick, I want to check. Am I echoing? Am I good?
Sound
Cool.
good to me.
Go.
I want to make sure. I'm so happy to be back, though. I really missed the stream. It's been a few weeks. I think our last stream we had Marnie Stockman on. I think that was the last time we did it. What an incredible guest Marnie was. She really gave me a lot to think about. I hope viewers, she also gave you guys a lot to think about. And that episode with Marnie wrapped up our NIST cybersecurity framework series. And we are actually not going back to the cybersecurity stuff soon. But I think we wanted to take a little pause because it's fall, and that means it's the fourth quarter. So everyone's kind of looking towards the end of the year. I know by about late November, everybody starts saying, let's just circle back around this in January. But it's sort of a paradox because like everyone wants to push everything, later, but also there's so much to be done at the end of the year to set yourself up for success in the first quarter of 2023. So that's what we're talking about today. And George, could you kind of start us off?
Yeah. This is something in my I say accidental entrepreneurship I've learned later in life as opposed to technical things. But really finishing the year strong is a really important behavior or trait in small, medium business, all businesses really. But I think that in small, medium businesses, as you just to kind of elaborate on where you came from, saying that, after Thanksgiving, people are kind of wrapping up, they're kind of done, they're looking to the holidays, they're going on vacation, they're family, eggnog. There's a lot happening.
And I like the idea that eggnog just disrupts.
It's eggnog disruption. It's a strange drink. It's very thick. But that being said, I think that the things that you're doing through October, November, first couple weeks of December, really kind of going to change how your new year starts. I think that in an overall way of looking at it, you shouldn't lose a sense of urgency as the year ends, because you want to finish things really strongly. And we'll outline some things we found in our practice to and our customers as well that really make things go really well, especially in getting queued up for next year. And we're going to do a separate stream on that. But so I think that one of the things that we found that was really important is just getting your invoices in order.
Well, hold on. Before we get into that, let's just throw an analogy out there that
go ahead, Matt.
Came in my head as you were talking. It's like running a business is not something that you look at year to year. It's a constant process. It's kind of like running a relay race. You've got multiple people doing things. You've got laps. You've got the baton that's being handed off at the end of one lap before the next one begins. Could you imagine if the person that was running towards you as you're waiting for the baton decides to take a leisurely stroll for the last quarter of their time around the track? I mean, that's what we're talking about here in a way, yeah?
And the idea is, you don't want to come in. That's a good analogy. That's great. I mean,
I think we've all experienced that on a team.
Of course. And artificial urgency is not a positive thing, right? Sometimes you've worked with people over the years that have this like persistent, running around with the unchecked urgency of, I think, sky's falling kind of mindset. And that's what we're talking about here. But more like knowing that, hey, there's certain activities and certain behaviors that we found within
there are activities that are related to winding down for the year, but at the same time, so you have they kind of intersect at some point, and that's what we're really talking about. We're talking about that first half of it today, and then in a future episode, the second half.
Correct. So as I said, just to go back to it, as to start things that matter. And you just passed handling outstanding invoices. You'd be surprised how many people this kind of pushed up to next year. They not really closing out their kind of books in terms of invoices, and it's really hard for you to start. I think I found it's really hard to start the year when you have things kind of crossing calendar years. So as best you can, You really want to get your invoices in order, know when's going to hit, or move the pay date, that sort of thing. Work with your vendors on that. Really important. Work with your vendors, partners, and your customers, just to make sure that's all clear of what your expectation is. We work with some vendors that you're not allowed to order any equipment after the 15th of the month because they're doing an internal inventory of the warehouse and what they have. So, and that may affect projects. It may affect everything you're working on. So really have that. And honestly, in my opinion, you really want to be done with that by 10th, 15th of December at the very latest. So that's really good. Another thing is look through all your vendor statements or your financial statements. Look through all the pieces of data you kind of collect and you kind of skim through at times. But this is a good time to take a pause and review those things.
George, with regards to running a business, are there situations where you would have to be looking for something at the end of the year? Maybe it's aligned with the end of, say, a lease of something with a balloon payment, like maybe like a car as an individual would have. Are there a lot of things you would run into in the workplace in that?
I mean, there may be end of year, and maybe those are things you want to track year out. But historically, people tend to make a lot of large purchases at the end of the year. They might be planning for it. Sometimes it's used for tax purposes. Basically, you want to be able to, depreciate an asset over the long. Once again, not an accountant, so don't take this as any tax advice, but or legal advice. But when we work with a lot of customers, they may have a certain amount of unallocated revenue or income that they want to utilize. For that would be on this calendar year versus next calendar year. It has to do with knowing what your forecast looks like for next year, your budget and what your potential forecast looks like. So, and we'll get that in a later, a difference between forecast, budget, and actual, which is something that I've took many years to learn. I still feel like I'm a novice at compared to really pro people at it. But I think as I said, it kind of go deeper into what you're saying, really kind of know where things are going to end up and close out by the year. And you should have a really good sense of that by the end of November. You should know what's going to be with business. You may listen, you have surprises. Sometimes people come out of the woodwork, but reality is you should kind of know what things you're going to owe, how much money, how much cash you have to outlay. Because remember, you can't just like empty your bank account at the end of the month, end of December, and start up next year. You have to kind of have money and things allocated for payroll and taxes, facilities, occupancy, ongoing obligations, whatever that may be, a lease or a loan. So I think a lot of it is like that. It's interesting, as you start working more on it, the year sort of ends. It's like the king is dead, long live the king kind of moment, where you like have this change where the year changes and all of a sudden everything resets.
Yeah.
But you still have all the obligations and things you had, at 11:59, at 12:01.
Yeah.
And we used to use them as very handy lines of demarcation and know a period once you're testing or analyzing. And that's why we try to that's why quarters in some way are a really good way of working, because quarters allow you to live in these 3-month, 90-day chunks. And you're not seeing things over a year. Because a year's a really long time and a lot of things change. It's interesting. A year is a short time and a long time at the same time, because for really strategic things, it's a short time, but your day-to-day tactical problems, it's too long because things may change on the ground or in your business or your environment. So I think, and kind of going that way, is check out your taxes. You should always be working on this with your accountant early in the year. Most people kind of wait until the next year. I've learned this the hard way as a business owner, or
person.
Personally. It's taxes can catch up with you. They're a really big. They can be a big motivator or a big distractor. And
you want to do them right. And I think actually it's like they're so scary and like they're sort of synonymous with stress, but it's one of those
death
things
and taxes. Come on, let's just say it.
But it's one of those things that's actually, they're just numbers. And if you just take the time early on, I think you do them right, you can avoid so much pain and headache when that due date rolls around in April.
Also, I think there's a lot of misconception about taxes in general, and I think people have get a lot of misinformation about it. Taxes are not necessarily a bad thing. They're part of living in our society and
in a society that functions.
Right. So I think, one person said to me, and I heard this seen it elsewhere, is like paying your taxes is not a bad thing. It means you made money and that your business is successful and healthy. When you're not healthy is when you don't pay taxes because you don't have any money to pay them.
I think that the misconception around taxes being evil greatly comes from not having conversations with individuals in the government that deal with taxes. I had an issue with one of my submissions a few years ago, and I was stressed out about it. And I call, and they're like, "Don't worry about it. Let's just figure it out." It wasn't like, "Hey, all right, get your prison suit on." And I think that's sort of the conception a lot of people have when it comes to taxes. That
usually you have to be like a persistent tax dodger to go to prison. Listen, like most.
Can we look up stats or something? I want the stream to become about this.
Exactly. No, but I mean, just to kind of wrap it up, it's like, listen, the government wants their money, and they'll negotiate for the most part. It's more a matter of that you tried to avoid it. That's really the problem.
Well, I think that's if anyone's going to take anything from today's stream, I think that's the one that's the greatest like anxiety reducing thing, is that they're people. You just get on the phone, you have a conversation. When I told them that there was an error on it, it was like, all right, well, let's just get it fixed. And that was it. No big deal. It was like telling someone that they gave me French fries instead of rice at a restaurant. It's not really that big of a deal. Just be nice and it'll get fixed.
It goes back to that thing, as I think a lot of folks, and I'll be guilty as charged, is that you just don't want that phone call. That's a kind of awkward conversation. I don't know the answer, unknown, anxiety driven kind of thing. And, most of the time, most people will work with you to solve the problem. Generally.
Exactly.
That's important. And I think that goes back into some of the other pieces here, just to kind of like close out your things as activities. One thing is we've got payroll, because you may have things in there that may not be correct, and payroll is important. It's probably one of the more common obligations, the most common and important obligations that a business has, is to maintain that payroll, make sure that the taxes are being withheld properly for their staff, make sure the 401k plan is being managed correctly. These are HR functions, these are finance functions, but in a small medium business, a lot of times that may be the owner, that may be one of the senior managers that are doing a lot of hats, and it can get a little tricky. Work with your payroll provider or your PEO. They have a lot of specialists in there. Generally speaking, sometimes a lot of times I know a lot of companies, Q3 into Q4 is when they do their open enrollment for new benefits. You want to make sure your employees know about those benefits and work with them on that. It's really important. It's really part of why people like working places or not working places, from my understanding.
I think that a lot of what we've been talking about so far is maintaining a high level of awareness of what's happening within the company and looking for anything that may need to be adjusted. And I'm just going to throw this out there because George, you and the rest of the leadership team at Valiant did a really great job a few years ago, and when we switched over to switch payroll providers, because the one that we were working with, they had some issues, and you listen to the staff because there were complications. I had tax complications, and it wasn't really a major deal, but it was one of those things that didn't have to happen. When the discussions took place, and I'm guessing it was probably like the end of the year, probably 2 years ago or something like that by now, you guys made a corrective action. I think that's very much reflective of what we're talking about today. And that's the kind of change that makes a difference for the business. It makes a difference for the employees. And it is the kind of thing that plays a large role in retention, because no one wants to get that phone call you were talking about, especially if it had nothing to do with them. And that's such an important point to make. And really not just looking at this and maintaining a level of visibility around these items, not just this time of year, but all year round, but being able to have the conversations with your team about some of these areas and how they could be made better is just crucial.
It's really, and I always like to say, like, this is a great, if you just regularly review these things in this quarter, you'd be in better shape than many people would be, because you're actually making an active decision to do something about it versus letting it be. I mean, it's a great, not to bring back the cybersecurity, but
Oh.
it's also
But
everything's cybersecurity. It's a great
Everything
time to talk about your incident response, your
Yeah.
business impact analysis, your business continuity, and you should be doing that all year. And you don't want to do everything in one shot at the end of the year, because that's overwhelming.
Let's call this what we should be calling it. It's an internal self quarterly business review.
That's a great way of putting it. That's a really smart way.
ISQBR.
Oh, we don't need acronyms. Death to acronyms.
Is QBR.
Right.
No,
But
now
realistically,
I've been in IT for 3 years. I want to contribute some. Okay, I need it's time.
Yeah,
It's like-
it's true. So and just keep running down things that we like to do. And thank you. It's great. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. So I think another thing is work with your vendors, because a lot of times they're closing their year out. They may be excess inventory and that they want to sell.
Here's a great tip for anyone out there that's looking for equipment and is dealing with a vendor. This is the time of year when you go, hey buddy, you call your account manager, go, you guys got any B stock around?
Yeah.
Right. Certain parts of equipment that are not going to have an issue if they were, say, open box or something else happened to them. This is the time of year a lot of vendors try to clear that stuff out, and you can take advantage.
It's right, because it closes out the books for the year. It goes back to like closing your books, right? You want to get this stuff off the inventory list, off your balance sheet.
Just to give people watching this an example, back in 2007 or 2008, it's been a long time ago, but there was a compact ProLiant that I really wanted, and it was $8,500 new. I got it back stock for $2,500 from CDW.
Wow.
That was after a very long established relationship with my account manager, and other factors. But think about the pricing discount that I was able to get on a really good server at the end of the year.
So there's a lot of incentives. People want to end the quarter strong, especially if it's a publicly traded company, or they have investors. Everyone wants to see that growth in the quarter. Your close. It's really important.
I don't mean to keep cutting off. I'm having all these things today. We're talking about clearing things out, closing the books for the year. You know what else? A lot of large vendors, not necessarily just in the space, but all over the country, are trying to do right now. They're trying to clear out warehouses from everything that was backed up in their supply chains for the past year that's been sitting now.
Yep.
You're hearing it a lot with retail sales, but the same thing is going to go for a lot of other types of equipment that you need. Now, I will take a step back and say that's probably not going to happen with desktops and other kinds of common equipment you're going to see in offices right now, because there are still some issues I've heard of, vendors having 90, 120 plus wait times for specific equipment. But this is the time of the year where you start getting inquisitive. You start asking the questions about what is available.
There's especially if you're looking to do a fairly sizable purchase. It's a good time of year. We work with our clients on this as well, to kind of give them a good sense. So.
Yeah. That was honestly, George, the best lead in to say, or you can just do all that through us.
Not the gentle art of self-promotion, but reality is, it is a good time of the year to do that. And what that does is, part of that too is setting the year up so that you have the equipment for your growth or replacement schedule. At times people don't want to buy things too far ahead of time. We got really used to kind of just-in-time ordering, but the reality is, with a bit of like pre-planning, what you're going to end up, kind of what you want to accomplish in the next coming year. It can really help you. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in the budgeting, but it can really help you contain cost and have a really fixed idea of what you're going to spend. And I think this kind of the two last points to wrap up is, this is a great time of year to back up all your financials, and you should be doing it all the time. But Matt, I think you have a really good story here. I think, and I'd love to hear more about how you learned this. Accounting is a story.
Wait, what?
I said accounting is nothing more than telling a story through numbers.
Did I put that in today's document?
You did put it in the flow.
Then I'm going to have to completely blow someone up, because there's an individual named Gary Giscombe, and he has had a storied career. He worked for L'Oreal, Amnesty International, IBM as an executive. And then he had to be my boss for like 5 years.
Poor guy.
And he always had really great things to say. One of the things he told me was, Matt, fix something, break something, do something right, do something wrong, just do something, and it's always about maintaining action and not kind of having analysis paralysis and a lot of those things that we've talked about. And, he was the CFO of the nonprofit I worked at when I was younger. And one of the best things he ever said to me is that accounting is nothing more than storytelling through numbers.
Yeah.
It's
I
And
love that. Yeah.
it's a great way of looking at it. You know, you could even Game of Thrones. That is the Iron Bank of Bravos. Not to be nerding out for a second.
I've never seen the show.
Sorry for our
I've seen the show.
nerd friends out there. You know, the numbers tell a different story.
But that's the point of it. It's just sorry. Yeah, it's just it's a great.
It's the numbers are
Great quote.
it's legitimately the end tail of the tape. I've heard it also called. And
It's the story in a way that can be fudged the least.
not according to WorldCom and or Enron, but let's not go there. I think that it's true though, and it's a great way for you to one of the things I think a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of business owners, especially when they love the work they're doing, they don't live in those numbers enough to know where the business is. And I think there's like a right brain, left brain component to this that's really important. If you live too much in numbers, you tend not to understand the customer experience and like the actual mission. If you live too much in the mission, the numbers are in bad shape. So the dichotomy that's always at odds at times and in alignment. And the best companies really blend the two things together and they make it part of their internal company, guide, like how they work. The numbers help. The numbers are a really important map, but not the only map.
The numbers are the rational side, but there still has to be the side that and motion. And I was going to say a lot of people say emotion doesn't belong in the workplace. That's nonsense. It's human, and you have to have the two of them to come together.
As humans, it's impossible to segment emotion.
No, and when you try, it's usually disastrous results.
And just to wrap it up here, by emotion particularly this is a really great time of year to reflect. I think that what happens is we tend to go into like a holiday, like high spirit mode. Then we hit this New Year's resolution, clean break thing that happens to a lot of folks, and I, myself included, at many times in my life. But I think that's not always the best thing because we put these artificial barriers. But the reflection now is really helpful because now you have a lot of data points. You can put it all together and you can help guide yourself for next year and give yourself some points of reference, context, so that in June you didn't forget exactly why you're doing what you're doing. So and most importantly, keep it really simple because the more complicated it is, the less likely you are to do it. I mean that's always been a truism for anything. So but I think this is a really great topic. I love this. I said coming to this kind of a different path than a lot of people from a business perspective, but it is really interesting. It's more interesting than I think people give it credit for. I think it's kind of dry and boring, but it's as emotional as anything you're going to do. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of people impacted, lives impacted. Small businesses are the backbone of the United States. I mean, most people work at a small business, and the better we get at running businesses, and the better overall our life could be. So I think it's very important. So just to wrap it up. So next week we have a really great cybersecurity topic to kind of wrap up cybersecurity month. Months to put the whole month. I don't believe in cybersecurity month. I believe in cybersecurity period.
All time, 24/7.
Infinity.
But infinity, because I think it's such a critical topic. But I think it's a great awareness month to get people kind of going to some really great content out there. There's some awareness. I know I've been doing a lot more security best practices trainings with our clients, and I've got some really good feedback. Just because it's such an important topic. So we're going to talk about that next week. With some really good advice, very practical. And after that, the next stream of that, we're going to talk about, we're going to return to this end of year with some budgeting, some best practices we found both for our customers and ourselves, and just keep the dialogue open. We're really excited. Love doing these live streams. So
all right. So with regard to this live stream next Friday, not Thursday, but next Friday.
Yes, we're very special
for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I think we're going to do it around noon. We said.
Yep, around noonish.
All right, so we'll get that figured out, and I'll get the promos out so everyone is aware. And the week after that, we're going to return to the normal schedule. Yep. And then, how are you guys feeling about a few weeks from now when we talk ergonomics and you get to learn all about the weird stuff I've been working on?
I can't wait to see the ergonomics.
I need
Love
to do
Get-
so much better in ergonomics. I need it. So
Get-
let's
Get
do
your
it.
popcorn ready. Doctor said I need a bacchiotomy, and we're working on it.
All right.
Anyway, I love saying that.
Very good.
Thank you guys so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like
Have
and
a-
subscribe. Sorry. Had to
Like,
do it.
share, subscribe, send to your friends, send to loved
Comment.
ones, aunts, uncles. They love the stream. And with
Grandchildren.
that said, yeah, anyone you want, you know.
Sounds good.
Have a good one, folks.
Bye everyone.
Here we go.